interviewing. You know, that's what they doing. Stick around. It's about to get all roomy up in here. Remote Ruby starts now.
What is up, my dude?
Chris, how's it going? I'm back.
It's Monday. We're recording on a Monday. It's like the weirdest thing ever.
I know, it's weird.
Wild. You've been at SF Ruby.
Yes, I just got back from SF Ruby and I was supposed to bring my microphone so that I could record some stuff there. And that was I think the only thing I forgot was that microphone.
You'll have to record live on stage next time. There's microphones up there, so
That's true. But I figured today, since I'm back, we could just go over the conference a little bit because I had a ton of fun in San Francisco. So I was like, let's get it on the record.
my parents are cleaning out their house still, and my mom dropped off my Google I/O from like 2010 badge, which was in San Francisco, and I was like, oh my God. That was back. What was the name of the phone? It was the one where the screen slides out and there's a full keyboard underneath it.
Oh, yeah.
It was one of the early like Android phones. Yeah. They just like gave you those. You like attended and they're like, look under your seat. Here's a new cell phone.
Hello, Oprah. Didn't realize Oprah was the keynote.
They had the original Google TV or something. I got that one year. It was just awesome. But then everybody started to want to attend because they knew they were going to get free stuff. So I think they stopped doing that around that time.
Well, it was actually my first time in San Francisco, surprisingly. Not my first time in California, but first time in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So it was cool to see that city because I've heard a lot about it and it was beautiful. It was really beautiful.
Nice.
I got to see a lot of it.
Yeah. You were down by the water, right? Because that's where the venue was.
So I stayed in Brisbane, which is near the airport, because
Australia's quite a ways away.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's Brisbane. I have two friends who, like, I did a Grand Canyon hike with them, and I've known one of them forever through programming, actually. And he is in YC right now, and they just had a baby. So I got to go see the baby for the first time. And I'm talking like bitty baby. I haven't seen a baby that small in a long time.
I know how that is right now.
Yeah.
First-hand experience.
Yeah, so I watched my YouTube videos, like how to hold a baby and stuff. Like I have two brothers. Like I've changed diapers, I've held babies. I just kind of forgot. I was like, I know you got to support the head, but
right,
make sure I do this right. But yeah, so I stayed with them and got to do some stuff with them, which was fun. But so I came in on like Tuesday evening, and then Wednesday morning was the conference, and me and my friend were going to go first thing in the morning, and his car battery was dead. So we were like, all right, we're going to get the car battery replaced and then we'll go. So we ended up getting there a little late on the first day. So I did not get to see Marco Roth's talk on Herb and Reaction View, although I heard amazing things about it and got to talk to him a little bit about that.
Nice.
So I kind of missed the first morning.
Yeah, you know.
So on the first day, I started talks off with Takashi Kokibun talking about ZJIT performance and the future of Ruby performance.
I haven't heard or read a ton about it. I know that like there was that one announcement a while back about ZJIT being a thing, but other than that, I haven't really paid attention to like comparisons between it and YJIT and what comes after ZJIT. We're out of.
So do
we have to double A JIT?
I asked Takashi about that. I was like, we need a JIT because it's just like Generation Alpha. We got to work all the way back and then we'll have Beta JIT. But no, that talk was really interesting. He showed some tools that you can use to kind of examine the ZJIT dump to see like what it's doing. And he kind of showed what YJIT did and now what ZJIT does. And it was really interesting. And it was very technical. So I'm not going to be able to give you a perfect explanation of it.
That's exciting though.
Yeah.
Is that aiming for like, it's what, a month away for Ruby 4?
It's not going to be enabled by default. It's going to come out, but I think 4.1, I think he says when they're looking to enable it by default.
Gotcha. Yeah, it'll give people time to use it for a year and find bugs and whatever else. So that makes sense. That's not something you would just want to publish and, you know, hope for the best.
Yeah. And I talked to Takashi a little bit later and I was like, we're going to have you back on the show to talk about it. And he said he was down. So maybe we can
Yay!
get him scheduled and then we can learn all about it together.
That'd be great. For the most part, I'm probably like most Ruby users who's like, cool, performance stuff, just free. And we just turn it on and that's about as much as we need to know. We don't have to go debug it. Typically, we're not running it Shopify or GitHub scale. So it's not like those debugging things of what the heck happened. This got compiled wrong in production or something. We don't have to debug that typically or whatever. So we're lucky to just sort of receive the blessings of free performance improvements. But I really like learning more of how like the internals work because Ruby's not written in Ruby itself. So it's a different skill to be able to contribute to a lot of that stuff. So it's interesting.
After that talk, our friend Jose Valim gave a talk on navigating programming language evolution in the AI era. It was really about improving agents, and he talked about Tidewave, which we talked to him about already. So if you want more on that, go listen to that episode. But talked about, kind of the different parts of like what an agent is and how we can kind of improve each step of that, the model, the instructions, the tools, and the runtime. And kind of the overarching thing I took out of it is that the best programming agentic tools are going to be built with their own runtime. And that's kind of where he's kind of focusing on, which makes sense when you think about Tidewave. Like it's running its own runtime. It's connecting to your server. It's seeing your logs. Like it's doing all this stuff. And he's like, it's not so much about compiling like the best set of instructions. It's like really like the most optimum experience we're going to be able to get is when we're able to like kind of create our own runtimes for these tools.
That's cool.
And kind of talked about MCPs, and he was saying like do less MCPs and more custom runtime. It was really interesting.
That's pretty cool.
So then the next one I went to was by Enrique on the MCP fog. It was basically to talk about how he built like an MCP inspector. I think Node has one, and he kind of based off that. He built an MCP inspector in Ruby. It was kind of talking through how he did that and different parts of the MCP spec and, introspection and things like that, which was pretty interesting. And then I don't remember who I was talking to, but I was talking to people that day and I accidentally missed the final talk of that day. But afterwards, Git Butler, which is a cool Git application, kind of like a forklift, I think. I saw on like Hacker News or Product Hunt, and I've just had it saved. I haven't tried it yet, but Git Butler through a after party, which was a ton of fun and free food and free drinks. And I got to see Nadia, who came. She was there not for the conference, but got to see Nadia, which is awesome because I love her to death, and talked to some people. Then I took a AI Uber.
I haven't tried Git Butler, but Scott Chacon, I think is his name. He was like a GitHubber like early. So it's cool to see him doing like a modern UI and stuff for Git, which seems pretty sweet. He would be an ideal person to be working on something like that, coming from all the GitHub background.
Also at that dinner, I did something uncool. I had a little fanboy moment because I got to meet Sarah May, and I've like been reading her stuff since I became like a developer. And Nadia was talking to her, and I was like looked across the table, and I'm like, "Are you Sarah May?" And I geeked a little bit because I was like, "I love your stuff."
It's awesome.
So that was fun. And then I had like a party on the way home so I took a bunch of Waymos, which are, if anyone doesn't know, are the driverless cars, which are very popular in San Francisco, except they can't get on the highway. So it like doubles the time almost it takes to get anywhere. But it was still fun. I thought it was going to be scary. It wasn't scary.
Well, it's not scary till you're trapped in one.
Yeah, there was a moment where I was like, people are honking at me. I can't control this car. Something weird is happening on the road. I was like, bikers are blowing through stop signs. Like, this is just a dangerous situation. Next morning was Obi Fernandez talking about Ruby and AI conversation. I thought that was really interesting. He kind of talked about coding velocity and going through like kind of his workflow. And he talked about some custom Claude commands. It was pretty interesting. I missed part of it, but I got to see like the latter half of it.
You attending half of something is a recurring theme here.
Dude, yeah. Don't. It's my life. It's a recurring theme in my life, dude. Next, Colleen Schnettler gave a really good talk that wasn't really pertinent to me, but I thought was really interesting on how to kind of market for technical people. So she kind of talked about finding an audience and how to like get them in. She has this side project called Simple File Upload. And she talked about how she made this Chrome extension, which used AI. So if you're looking at like let's go Patagonia. If you're looking at a Patagonia jacket, it would use AI to like try it on you. So it would kind of show you like what it would look like on you. I thought that was super cool. But she basically used that as like, because the API she was using like didn't allow you to save those images. It was like a really easy upsell. Like, oh, well, if you would like to save those images, you can use Simple File Upload. And it was just kind of talking about how to get releasing things of value to like customers and trying to get them into your cycle, your marketing cycle. And I learned a lot.
Nice.
Imagine the last time you had to deal with request timeouts or backed up job queues in your prod environment. Frustrating, right? Here's what that means. You're either not autoscaling or your autoscaler is not doing its job, because autoscaling is supposed to prevent scenarios like this. That's why we built JudoScale. JudoScale is the autoscaler that works for Heroku, Render, Fly, and AWS. With JudoScale, you'll smoothly handle traffic spikes while dramatically lowering your hosting costs. Do you want a rock-solid production environment? Visit judoscale.com/remote Ruby to learn more.
Next, I went to The Role of Software Design in an AI World by Sarah May, which I thought was fantastic. I obviously said I fanboyed the night before. I was in the front row. It was super, super good. It felt like something I needed to hear. There's like a scale, right? There's developers on one end that are fearful, and then there's developers on the other end that are boisterous. And she kind of talked about AI and the different iterations of cycles that she's kind of seen. Like the first one was Java. So runtime, is that what Java introduced? Is like the first, like you didn't have to compile it?
Like yes.
The thing that Java
my
did.
Brains,
Same. But whatever that thing was, then every program language started doing it. And she kind of talked through like, all these cycles kind of that have happened in software where the engineers were like, oh no, we're going to lose our jobs. Like this thing's going to replace us. But what it actually led to is more software, more innovation, more people being able to access it. Yeah. Kind of how that cycle has continued to play out over the years.
I was just talking to a friend of mine. He got laid off from his job a week or two ago. The funny thing is, he was saying like, with AI, it's being told, the story's being told that like, yeah, we're laying people off because we don't need you anymore because AI can do your job. But he told me, he was like, look, if a company of our size was really 10x productive, they claim, if you're that business, logically, you would keep all those engineers if they're really 10x as productive, and you would just monopolize the entire market. You could crush everyone in your market because you're doing 10x. And it's like, that doesn't make any sense as the excuse to lay off people. That what's going on is not because of AI. The layoffs and everything is actually not, even though that's what the narrative is being told. Oh, it's so great. It'll do your jobs and we don't need you anymore. Not true at all. It doesn't make sense. I like having these conversations because it's like, yes, they can make you way more productive. And in fact, they're phenomenal at like me working on Go for a plugin for Caddy or something where like, I don't know Go very well. So even if the code quality is crap, what I would teach myself is probably going to be worse, at the beginning. So once you learn it better than the AI can do, then that's why you are valuable. Like you can write better Ruby code than AI can generate or whatever, at least right now.
And going back to something Obi said in his talk, which I thought was really interesting, was like he was talking about how he was working on some code and he encountered a bug in a gem. And he's like, oh, this thing doesn't do what I think it should do, or it's not working correctly, and it blah, blah, blah. And because of AI, he's like, normally like I would like submit an issue or I would just, work around it and I would keep going. He's like, but with AI, and he literally walked through it. He was able to submit like a fix for that issue to the gem in like 10, 15 minutes. And it's like, that's something that we wouldn't do. So, I don't know. It was interesting. I think her main thing was like, don't operate from like a place of fear about AI. And I think that that's something that I needed to hear because I kind of was. And I was feeling very pessimistic.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, this is stupid. Like, it's taking away these things that I love. And the talk really helped me kind of reframe some of that thinking. So
Good.
I thought that was fantastic.
Good. We need more of that. I was going to ask, did you go to Mike's talk?
Half of it.
Surprise. Yeah.
I did not take notes, so I can't write that. Yeah, it was really interesting. Talking about like his kind of mindset starting out on it and the business and what successful open source business model kind of looks like. So I think that was really good. I had to use the restroom. That's why I walked out early.
Good excuse.
Yeah. I thought of it on the fly. Thank you. The next talk I went to was Scaling Rails to 2 million MySQL requests per second by Eugene Kenny, which he was an engineer at Intercom. And so that was a really interesting story of kind of like, their databases. And like, I mean, when you think about Intercom, you're like events, chat messages, and you're like millions and billions of them. And at one time they were like the biggest database on RDS or Amazon's like database system. So that was really interesting. Like, I didn't have a lot of the problems that they were talking about, but it was still really interesting to kind of like hear how over time they're like, okay, well, let's just buy more database storage. That'll be good. It's like, okay, well, maybe we need another database. It's like, okay, well, maybe we need to start making some databases for specific customers, and like kind of that iteration over the years of like these things. And like they were using multiple databases for that support kind of came to Rails. So they were kind of showing some of the code they had used to like, and talk about the migrations and the this and that. And it was super interesting to kind of just hear that from like that level of scale.
That's not a scale most people get to play on, or a level that most people get to play with. That is crap load of requests per second.
I think people forget that like how big Intercom is and that they are a Rails app.
Right. Yeah. And a lot of that too is like, you wonder how much of that is Ruby or whatever. Like those super high performance endpoints don't make sense to be in Ruby. So you got maybe Rust or Go or something for handling that. But like still all of the Ruby stuff needs to connect to those databases and be able to display the events in the UI and yada, yada, yada. Like it's not a one size fits all thing as the database, architecture shows as well. Like there's a million different problems that end up being super unique depending on the product. Twitter had to kind of build its own graph database and whatever. Like that just happens at massive scale, which luckily you should have the revenue and the people to be able to address those problems, but still.
It was interesting to kind of go through like, this is when we vertically scaled and this is when we horizontally scaled and like why we did those things. So if you're interested or working at like a big scaler, I thought it was really interesting to kind of hear like kind of the iteration of it, right? Like, cause he kind of started like years and years ago and kind of worked his way through how they've updated and modified the database going forward. So that was great. And then the final talk was Vladimir Dementev talking about Rails X, which was kind of a talk on what the future of Rails looks like. He kind of talked about some stuff that Laravel does. And it's like, well, we don't have to wait for Rails core to necessarily adopt these things. Like we can, make open source packages. You got a few shouts because he brought up Rails Bytes and talked about, the templating feature. He kind of worked through like some of the major issues that Rails developers, like he asked on Twitter, I think, and a few other places, and kind of worked through some of the most common things that Rails developers were complaining about or wanted fixed or what they saw as issues moving forward. And I agreed with a lot of it. A lot of it also kind of ran around like there's no like default component libraries, or there's a lot of talk about assets and things like that, which I thought was interesting. And yeah, it gave me a lot of ideas. He also showed this gem, I thought, which was really interesting under the Evil Martian's name called Callback Hell, which kind of gives you because he was like, the Rails stats don't give you like a breakdown of the callbacks, right? He's like, but that could be like a major thing, especially on older apps. So that was super interesting. There's something in Action Cable that they were talking about, and there's this thing called Action Cable Next. There's a PR in Rails that has not been merged yet. Action Cable Server Adapterization. So they want to make Action Cable more flexible and extensible by separating the low-level implementation specific details from the abstractions like the connection and the channel stuff. That would make it possible to use user-level Action Cable code with alternative web servers like Fibers and Falcon, things like that. Some really interesting things came out of that talk, I thought. I talked to him about this afterwards, and he said Hotwire is yesterday's tool and it's hit its limit. And I was like, I talked to him afterwards and I was like, so you don't like Hotwire? And he's like, no, I love it. He's like, I just think that it's kind of done. It's like we're kind of at the limit of what we can do with it.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, dang, I want to hear you talk more about that. And we did talk a little bit afterwards, but it was a really interesting talk to kind of get you thinking about like, what does Rails look like in this new age? Like, what things do we need to work on as a community? What can we bring to the framework and the community?
Did you know that downtime costs $427 per minute on average for small businesses and up to $9,000 per minute for medium-sized businesses? That's every single minute. Honeybadger helps you avoid costly downtime and saves you money by combining error tracking, performance monitoring, uptime monitoring, and more into one easy-to-use platform, helping you fix outages faster than ever. Best of all, Honeybadger is free to get started, and setup takes as little as 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io. That's one of the things that Rails is in an interesting spot where it's like, at this point, you need more conceptual compression to like grow the framework, where like the complexity of building stuff is still there. Component frameworks, like for the UI, there's nothing to address that. Stimulus does some things with keyboard shortcuts and no templating, no theming, no, like all that is something you build from scratch. So really like Hotwire conceptually probably is roughly, you know, unless there's another thing like morphing that comes out that's like and refreshes like a fairly powerful feature. There's probably more of those that could come out. But at the end of the day, it's like the limit of where Stimulus is designed to be ends, and there's got to be something next that compresses that even more or whatever. And a lot of people are looking for that and are like, okay, can I just tell my AI to use this component library to build the UI? That'd be great. But right now, you don't have any of that. It's an interesting thing where, yeah, what is next? The core components of Rails, at least on the back end, are all there. Lexi is coming out. That's sort of a back end, front end thing where action text on the back end is going to need a little bit of changes internally to support multiple editors on the front end. But like, it's still kind of a front end project at this point. I think Rails probably the biggest thing is like the front end. People are looking for more support and more help. What is the convention that I can follow rather than having to decide, do I use Hotwire or Inertia or do my own thing or whatever? There's not a ton of convention there yet that's like come from David or the core team or whatever. Like people kind of always want to stick to the Rails defaults if possible, but there's no real answer for that at the moment. Laravel is trying to do more of that stuff and have like Flux UI for the front end that Caleb Porzio is doing with components. And like, that's sort of the de facto, like, all right, this is the person you follow for that. We don't really have that, at least not officially endorsed kind of deal in Rails. Yeah. And maybe one day, or maybe that's where they choose to draw the line and they don't want to do that, which it seems more the case right now, at least. But it is one of those interesting things of like, as things evolve, maybe if you don't do that, framework falls behind where someone else steps in and decides, yeah, we'll take care of a lot of these decisions for you or whatever. Because that's, I mean, you look at Flux and the attention to detail for like keyboard shortcuts and navigation and accessibility and all of that. That's the reason why people pay for Flux on the front end, because Caleb's taking care of all those details, like making sure that all of it is accessible. And if you have to build that from scratch yourself with Stimulus, that's a crap load of work. That's a full-time job for Caleb, at least him. He's got a designer that Hugo that's helped on it. And it's probably multiple people's full-time job to build that out. And I don't know, it eventually could come to Rails or whatever. But and I think that's why Shad CN and stuff as well has taken off in popularity. It's like people want that conceptual compression of front end components. They want to be able to compose stuff and just say like, grab this accordion, grab this combo box, grab the whatever, and just have the suite of things to just run with their product idea. And that's like going to be the next challenge for the framework, I feel like.
Yeah. Well, it helps build things faster too. Like, especially with
right.
AI, if you have a really well-documented component library, like you can just tell it to build the stuff with the name of the components, right?
Yeah. You can do the wiring up and gluing things together on the back end or whatever. But like, if you're able to just do that, you can get your product idea out in the world in real people's hands faster. You would talk to real customers, iterate on it. That was the whole point back in the day of Rails in the beginning was, look how much I'm not doing so I can get this in people's real customers' hands. But that does change over time, which means eventually there needs to be another layer there. And that was what was cool about Hotwire. It was like, we've taken all the JavaScript front end stuff and compressed it down into this. So you don't have to think about it too much, but it didn't take care of everything. So we'll see what happens next or whatever, but it's got to have somebody that is sort of in love with that problem, like Caleb kind of does for Flux. Interesting time though. I like all that thinking. What are you struggling with? What are we wasting a bunch of time on? What is, like in the Webpacker days, like what is everybody reinventing the wheel doing right now?
Right.
How can we just like make a convention for that and take care of 80% of things? And that's what most people use. And when you got to break out of it, that's fine. But like if you can solve that, you could save so many hours of people's time and effort and whatever, and they could be spending that on more valuable things. That's like an awesome mindset to just be in all the time. So you could catch those where you're like, why do I have to ask AI to do this and get into the weeds? It's like, why couldn't it just do the thing that I wanted it to right away? And then you realize like, someone needs to solve this problem or work on a library or whatever here.
That whole talk just gave me like idea after idea after idea. Like Laravel also has like starter kits. React starter kit, everything you need to create an application with Laravel, Inertia, and React. Vue starter kit, Vue, Laravel, Inertia, Vue. Livewire starter kit, Livewire and Laravel.
It's sweet. Literally, if you go under framework and packages on their menu,
that's what he showed that in the talk. He showed the screen and it was a big talking point.
I didn't know they have feature flags as an official library now.
I was literally hovering over that when you brought that up. Yeah.
So freaking cool, and like, the thing is, like, Flipper is the trusted thing for Rails, but because it's still third party, which is fine because I trust John to do great work and he does, but it just helps to go that extra mile like Laravel does, where the framework says, all right, this is the solution, and everybody just accepts it and uses it. Whereas you do have to figure out feature flags in Rails. What's the most popular one? What do people recommend? You got to do this like research when it's a third-party library, and it just makes it a bit more effort because there's no convention for it. You got to do the work to figure out what's the right solution for me. But I've been very impressed. Like they had to raise money and hire a crap load of people at Laravel to get to that level. So Rails will never be that because that's not what they want to do. I don't want to turn Rails into a business, which is understandable. But I don't know if there's like a middle ground where we can get to in the community. Like it is partly something where, hey, did Evil Martians create this? I trust it's going to be well written, battle tested. They're using it themselves in production. They built it for a reason. And same with like using Flipper. I know that John made great projects, libraries. They're trustworthy. They've been around forever. I will use anything he makes because I know it. He's super thoughtful and will do it well. And that's kind of the hard part is like, you got to go find the people, learn about them, understand like, oh, I can trust this person or not. Because there are many libraries you grab off the shelf and it's like, yeah, it was good back in the day, but they haven't written Rails for 8 years. And now this is abandoned and we got to find a fork of it or something. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is a frustration of like, I don't know what I can trust and what I can't trust anymore. And that just makes it tough. I just pulled out a couple gems from GoRails that were older gems, didn't really use hardly any functionality of it. Like Access Taggable on I was using. It was like, I can go rebuild the one feature I need out of that myself. And I did in order to pull the gem out because like it hasn't been touched for a while. It wasn't Rails 8.1 compatible or something. And there's pull requests and forks that kind of hacky solve it as quickly as possible. And that's fine. There's maybe one or two that are like, let's do this properly and get it merged in. And like a maintainer would really be thinking of it. But at the end of the day, I was just like, I don't even need 90% of the features of this gem. So like, maybe I'll just use my own. But it sucks because it's like, it'd be nice if we had a process of transferring ownership of that to somebody trusted. Because then that could be a way to keep the community like really tightly organized and trusted, which is, I think, what comes out of Laravel, where they pull these things under the Laravel umbrella. You know that they're going to maintain it. That just, it's the beauty of open source, but also some of those like rough edges of open source that evolve over the years as people move on and whatever. It makes it hard, but it also gives opportunity for somebody else to come in and let me revamp Access Taggable on for Rails 8.1 and maintain it myself. And like, maybe I need a new name for the gem and it becomes a fork of it or something. It's also opportunity for people. So that's not a bad thing too.
This is random, but related because I was looking through the Laravel docs and they have this copy as markdown button at the top. And I want that for the Rails guides. Actually, I'd rather just be able to go to security.md Claude does, which would be nice.
Yeah, I wonder if the Rails guides, because the Rails guides are already written in Markdown.
That's what I thought.
They're generated with
it's a special Markdown there, right?
There's some custom stuff in there, like syntax highlighting and whatnot.
Right.
But like in theory, you could probably just have the generator output those as Markdown, even if it was just like, here, copy over the raw files to the same URL.md or something. That probably wouldn't be terribly hard to do. It may just be a lot of content though. Some of those guides are pretty long.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that I just published a video today on the Rails Markdown renderer and the MIME type. Because I think when I first heard that, I heard like a lot of excitement from people. And I was like, I don't think this is what you think it is. Like when they hear Markdown renderer, in the past, you think of taking Markdown and rendering as HTML in the browser.
Like red carpet or whatever.
Yeah. And cram down and whatever. Like that is not what this is. This is, or Common Marker is the one I use these days. It was like written in Rust or whatever. It's pretty great. That's what people think of when they hear Markdown renderer. And it's like, no. This is a renderer for your Rails controllers to say render Markdown. And you give it an active record object or any object, and it just checks, does it respond to Markdown? If it does, then you output that, which you can just alias that to like your body or whatever column you have if it's already being saved in Markdown. That's also a MIME type. So when you render Markdown, it'll, content type application Markdown or text Markdown, whatever it is. So that's really all it is. And I was like, I know people are excited about this, but I also want to make it clear that like it is just the most basic thing ever. It's more or less like rendering plain text back out, but it's convenient in the day of AI where you will want to build those features. It'll just kind of do the content type and the respond text. It's more or less just a shortcut for what you could already do. So it's not anything super exciting, but it does make sense to be built into the framework. So I like that. The videos and talks and stuff, I assume, were recorded. I hope they were recorded.
I think so. Because they were looking for some help funding the production of those.
The videos, yeah. So definitely were recorded.
Yes, they were recorded. I'm going to link that in the chat because they are still looking for some help with that.
Cool. Yeah, that I'm very much looking forward to
Yeah, there's
watching
some
all of
very good
these,
ones.
really. The thing that excites me the most about this conference, and I think was why so many people were excited about it, was just the focus on startups and entrepreneurship. And like, yes, it's code related, like a programming conference, but like the whole excitement for me with Ruby and Rails is building things for real people to use. And I think that gets lost at a lot of conferences where they're just about programming. And it's like, it is cool to learn about the internals of Ruby and how it works and whatever. But like the thing that really drives me and is the most fulfilling is like sitting down and talking to customers and seeing what they do, like hearing that Go Rails changed their life or whatever it is. It makes my day every single time. And these conferences are so rare. I don't know the last time I've been to a conference that would feel like that, where it had such a startup and sort of inspiring, I think is the like feel that gives me. Where it's like, yeah, it's cool like to hear, wow, if we could build a product, one day we might have intercoms problems of 2 million database requests per second. That's wild. And like, those are fun engineering challenges, but also the story of them getting from the beginning to there is amazing. And just seeing what people can do, that to me is something missing at a lot of the conferences. And I'm excited to see one sort of dedicated to it. So next year, if they have another SF Ruby, which I sure hope they do, can't wait to be there.
Yeah, on both days they did startup demos. So like,
oh
there were
yeah,
just
I saw those in the
blocks of
schedule.
demos. It was super cool.
I think that's a really neat, like sort of not lightning talks, but effectively the same thing, but just dedicated to like, here's cool stuff people are building.
Right.
Spread the word. It's awesome.
Well, on Friday was like a hack day. They had some events, like Brittany organized a Golden Gate Bridge to Alcatraz swim at 6 a.m. I was like, hell no.
You would have gone for half of it if you did.
Yeah, I would have gone for half of it and be like, all right,
halfway. Like,
I'm gone. I'm
all right,
done
guys,
here.
I'm going back.
I spent that day with my friends kind of going around San Francisco, like doing some of the touristy things. Like got to see Golden Gate Bridge and see my friend's office and went a few places around town. So that was a lot of fun.
I haven't been to San Francisco for quite a while, but that city is quite an interesting and inspiring place because it's just like every coffee shop you go in, you hear people talking about startups and software and whatever.
Yeah, it was a vibrant city for sure. I was like, I could never live here. Well, number one, because it's so freaking expensive. Number two, there's so many freaking
Right.
people. But I was like, this is like a really beautiful city. And like, if you're in the US, like you see constantly on the news, like San Francisco's on fire, blah, blah, blah. There's everywhere. But I didn't see that at all. Maybe it's because I didn't go to the bad parts of town.
Tenderloin.
But yeah, I didn't go to the Tenderloin, but I saw a lot of the city because of the way the Waymos like travel. Like, so I got to see a ton of the city.
Yeah, because they went the rural route for you.
Yeah.
The scenic
So
route.
I didn't see anything like that. Like, it was beautiful. So big thank you to Arena and Evil Martians for putting that on. I had a blast. I hope they do it again.
Yeah, I feel bad missing out, but there was no way I could make it with a 2-month-old. But next year, and I'm excited to see the videos. I hope those come out soon because there's so many of those talks that were like, yeah, this just needs to be out there in the community more, I think.
Right. Well,
cool.
That's my SF Ruby recap.
Well, it's Black Friday week. This morning, I published a video on Markdown, but also the first lesson in a SaaS product series for Go Rails. So we're building like a domain expiration monitoring tool.
Oh, nice.
And then go through the entire process of like today's lesson is like, how do we even get the expiration? But then we build accounts and Stripe payments and subscriptions and the billing portal and wire up the webhooks and deploy it with Kamal and all that stuff and get it into production. And then like, oh, we need a recurring job to update those on a regular basis. How do we do that? Let's add that in production. Oh, we missed this thing that whatever. And like, we might need to do customer support. So let's add admin. So we have an admin area to go poke around and make sure, things are working correctly or whatever. So it's been fun. It's been like a 20 lesson series so far that we can even take further too. It's like, might as well do add uptime checks and SSL expirations and whatever. So it's a good foundation. Like you probably don't want to actually run that as a business, but there are lots of products out there like that already. So it's cool to like clone one, see the decisions made along the way and figure out, oh, I could do this, but slightly differently and turn that into a product. Cron job monitoring and whatever. There's so many good examples.
Someone make a GitHub Actions monitoring tool. I swear to God, dude. There's like one or two that exist and they're bad.
What would you monitor on GitHub Actions? What are you?
Oh my God, dude. So much. All right. So here's the deal. There's a lot of things you can monitor, right? But out of the gate, like I want to see performance broken down. Like you have workflow runs, right? But those workflows have jobs and some of those jobs are split into matrices. I need to not only be able to see the performance of those individually, but it would be nice to be able to like collect them into like if one job spits out 40 matrix jobs, it would be nice to see the average by that. But then I would want to see flakiness, reports on flaky tests.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Queuing time. That's a big one.
Yeah.
Queuing time. You could track.
That sometimes gets me. At least for open source stuff where it's like, oh, this queued for like 20 minutes.
Yeah. Timeouts are another one. You could also be watching regressions and like someone adds a test and all of a sudden the suite is like 20 seconds slower, for instance. The big thing I want to do for it is like I'm constantly trying to add tweaks to improve the performance. And it's really hard to be able to take like a report to my boss and be like, here, I improved the test suite performance by like 20% this month or 20% this year. It's really hard to be able to, like, it's almost impossible
and
to do that.
You're going to need not just one run that's like 20% faster. It needs to be like 100 runs.
Yes. And that's expensive and it takes a while.
Yeah, because it's also going to be affected by other people's commits that month or whatever too. So it's not like
commits are hanging in front of you. Yeah. All sorts of stuff.
That's a really good one. Like I can see the value in it. And I can also see how dang hard that might be to like be accurate enough.
GitHub has most of that information.
Data,
you just kind of have to put it all together, which is the difficult part.
Yeah. And being able to give you the confidence, like, yes, it is 20% faster, but it may not look 20% faster because somebody screwed something else up or whatever happened. And detecting flakiness, like, what does that mean? What are the metrics that you use for that? It's like, yeah, was it a typo or was it just like the test suite failed?
If you're using a common format, like I think we talked about CTRF at one point, like if you're using like a common format, then you could theoretically take the artifacts out of the job and then have not only like the understanding of the job, but then the understanding of like the test suite.
Yeah, because you would want to know, like, did this error out or did just an assertion fail? Because you can't just use the status code of the output of the test suite necessarily. And yeah, like even
get
just
the logs.
Because you could even, which should be able to write out as an artifact or something.
Parse massive amounts of logs. So
yeah, it may be quite a challenge, but it could be really useful. I like that. That'd be cool.
Even just an MVP would be like nice. You could do something small that like doesn't have like the flaky test, but like just helps you like monitor the performance of your pipelines and then just kind of slowly start.
Right.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Someone take this idea before I finally like get off my ass and do it.
Yeah. There you go. That's a good one. I like it. Well, sir, let's call it a day, but I am sad I missed SF Ruby, but can't wait to watch those videos.
Yep. People were asking about you and Jason, and they were like, are you the only one from Podia here? I'm like, yep, I'm the representation, which is good or bad, depending on how you feel about me. All right.
Love it.
Well,
cool, man.
I will catch you next time.
See you later.
Peace.